Hello, YouTubers. Joe Kersey here on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2014 at 1400 Eastern Time. And it's 11 degrees Fahrenheit outside, up from a morning temperature around, well, between like 4:30 and 7:30 of -4 degrees. It's absolutely balmy out. Actually, when I walked down to the truck there in the pole barn here earlier, we actually are getting a bit of a southeast wind, and it actually did feel kind of warm despite the actual temperature. Funny how that happens. Now, I was a bit at a loss for what I was going to talk about today. There's so many things. I've got a list of them here. There's like a list. Which in due course, not today, but over time, we will probably get to from time, pretty much. But I just got an email from this outfit. It's one of these, outfits that organizes petitions. Like Go Change or Change Go or something. And it sort of it sort of scans the waterfront. It's not just all left wing, all right wing, all this issue, all that issue. I mean it's pretty much if somebody wants to get a petition out there to thrust at somebody or some outfit, or, they'll email it out there and see who bites. I got a cough again. Sorry. So today is the 1973, 2013, the 40th anniversary of the Supreme Court releasing the Roe v. Wade decision. Get ready for a discussion. Now, when I was a boy, when that was released, I was in medical school, and I started medical school in July of '72, and so I was, basically almost 8 months into medical school, and had finished the first 6 months, which was the anatomy, biochemistry, physiology. Anatomy, biochemistry, physiology part of medical school. And then the next 9 months we're going to cover the pharmacology, pathology, and the other stuff. Pathophysiology, but sort of a whole, anyway. Anyway, so, and knowing that this decision was going to greatly affect how we all ended up practicing or not practicing one way or the other in terms of what we chose to do or chose to not do, or after a couple of weeks, the medical school organized about a 4-hour session at night, which was required attendance, by the way, and not just for the people who were in the. So we had two groups. We had 2/3 of us were in a traditional lecture format program, and then 1/3 of our class was in this kind of independent study program. But this was required for all 250 of us. It was The second and only the third time, well, the second of 3 times that I saw all 250, well, in the end, it ended up being more like 215 members of my medical school class assembled in one room at the same time. And this was they presented this as kind of serious stuff. Well, it is, because you're talking about killing babies, aren't you? Scraping out them babies, killing them babies. Just on a whim. Didn't really want to do it, but I fucked that June. Got me pregnant, and something happened, and now I had to figure out what to do. And so, with this Supreme Court decision, this opened the doorway to that, didn't it? Well, a legal doorway. Because there were already been 7 states at that time in which abortion under various circumstances was legal. And, it wasn't limited just to the residents of the state. A person could drive over to that state or fly over that state or, it's such a hardship. Yeah, but if somebody wanted to kill their baby, they could kill their baby. And legally. And, moderately safely. And then, of course, it's always the back alley coat hanger crowd, they're scraping in with a coat hanger. Yes, obviously that happened. Yeah. And of course, there's a lot of this folklore that goes into, like, how do you have an abortion? How do you self-induce an abortion? There's the shake up the Coke bottle and vinegar and blow it up your hoo-hoo and your uterus. Of course, what that joint did is it washed all sorts of crap into your peritoneal cavity through your fallopian tubes, and you end up getting an intraperitoneal abscess. There's all, it's folklore, But the fact of the matter is, abortion is an elective taking of a living entity's life. Now, there are a lot of reasons that living entities are killed. One only has to go up to the animal shelters to see living entities being killed routinely on a daily basis. These are living entities. And they're being electively killed. I got a cough. All right. Abortion is, let's just face it, convenience killing. Now, sometimes the convenience is to achieve a legitimate medical outcome. Sometimes it's just to achieve a legitimate, well, not a legitimate, to achieve an elective, well, elective, to achieve a social outcome. But that's what it is. So this opened the doorway to a lot of stuff. Now, I may as well just tell you right now my opinion about abortion. And then as I talk further, you will understand why I have this opinion about abortion. Excuse me. One, there are some people that are just not fit. They're just not going to be fit to have a child, either physically or psychologically. I mean, if you're in your early teens and you have no financial support, and when you're in your early teens, having a baby, certainly statistically is far more likely to be a bit of a medical risk to you. Finish your school. Particularly if the guy who got you knocked up isn't going to stand by you and provide for you, help you. Now, of course, then you have, but don't wait till the kid's like 20 weeks along to do it. You know, do it when you know you're 6, 8, 10 weeks out. Because when you once you feel that child moving you, which is called quickening, by the way, this is a real individual. You know, it's a real individual. You know, I would argue it's a bit of a real individual before that, but it's a real individual. And you know, traditionally under the English common law, a woman could try to take her fetus's life up until quickening, which traditionally happens between 14 and 18 weeks of pregnancy. You know, that's after conception. You know, any weeks I refer to are after conception time, not after the last menstrual period time, because there's a 2-week difference. You know, traditionally, the median time, and it's a pretty sharp median for a baby to quicken, meaning the mother can feel it move, is 16 weeks after conception, which would be about 20 weeks after the last menstrual. So when a doc says 4 weeks or 4 months, the woman's going to talk about 5 months sometime. And they've gone back and forth on that convention over the years. I don't know what exactly the current convention is. But in any case, so if you're gonna electively kill your child because it's just inconvenient to have a child because you're young or you're improvident or you're stupid or do it quickly, do it fast, do it early. Now, on the other hand, you get a little older in life and farther along in life, and you have a sort of an inconvenient moment, an inconvenient consequence, if you will. Well, then in my mind, the issue becomes, well, are you going to have a healthy child or not? Are you going to, is there any sort of genetic problem that's going to be an issue? And of course, and this is not just applicable to the early 20 people. It's particularly applicable to the older crowd that wants to have babies late in life, and you're more likely, although not far more. There's none of this stuff that's far more anything. It's just slight statistical, edges here. If you're going to have a trisomy, well, there's 3 or 4 trisomy syndromes, but the most common ones is trisomy 21, which is Downs. And, there are a number of people that have elected to have, they know they're going to have one of these Downs kids, and they've elected to carry them to term, and raise them and deal with them. And they say they're wonderful, and it's wonderful, and they're loving, and it's made their family happier, and all that. If that's what they say, that's what they say. You got to take their word for it, don't you? But I know my own temperament well enough to know that, and thank God it didn't happen to Thomas. Thank God it didn't happen to Thomas. Because, there were no tests done This was the grace of God. I couldn't handle that. I just couldn't deal with that. I couldn't. Call me weak, call me what you wish. That's just the way it is. You know. Anyway, that's just me. Unfortunately, although not so much now, because the technology is advanced, but at the time that this whole Roe v. Wade decision came out in 1973, the ability to determine whether somebody had one of these Downs kids, it wasn't there until much later in pregnancy. Particularly, you had to rely on ultrasound determinations and ultrasound signs, and there was no real determinative sign. Although they were starting to do amniocentesis to do the chromosome counts. But of course, amniocentesis then, well, as it still does, but more so then, carried in and of itself, a risk of miscarrying what might otherwise be a normal pregnancy, might turn out to be a normal pregnancy. High-risk obstetrical practice is just a series of really know when the trade-offs of, consequences, none of them particularly good, but some of them less awful. It's just a bastard to work in that area, and I have the greatest respect for those who have chosen to pursue their lives in this way, making a living doing well and helping people too. And then moving farther out on the categories here, you've got people that basically, I got pregnant, I don't have a kid, kill my kid. I don't have a kid, I'm perfectly able to have a kid, I just kill my kid. I don't hold much truck with that. Now, what I do say is, let's just call what we're talking about what we're talking about. Let's call what we are talking about. We're talking about convenience killing. Pure and simple. All of this is convenience killing. Now, in a few cases, we might be preventing a lifetime of misery for the product of conception, as they say, that comes out and is salvageable, in order to be put on a ventilator, and lie there like a rest of their life. Yeah, it's alive. It's alive in the same sense that it's like alive in the same sense as these dogs are before they put them into the gas chamber up at the pound. And it's convenience killing. That's what it is. That's what it's called. So for the theologians out there, and I like theology as much as the next guy. I help probably more than the next guy, as you all know. But we are imperfect, sinful human beings trying to achieve happiness here on earth in our own way. Well, no, not in our own way, with the help of God, but I've seen some of these folks, guys, and I'll tell you, you get one of these unfortunates that come out of somebody, and this isn't going to promote the general happiness of mankind. So if you know about it ahead of time, and see, the thing is about knowing about it ahead of time, and now there's actually, a way you can sort of know about it ahead of time, and of course you have some of these laws say, well, 20 weeks. Well, 20 weeks. Sometimes you can't catch some of these things. Some of the more profound neural tube, uh, brain, spinal, this and that type. Many of those can't. Well, not many. Some of the more obscure ones can't be caught till much later. So, and you're talking 24 weeks. Well, by the time you reach up in there and slice away to try to, kill a 24-week-old fetus, that's almost like chopping. See, because a lot of those kids at that point look almost like more or less human beings. Well, a little tiny, wadded up, snot raggy human beings, but human beings nonetheless. And that's when, it's the. But then, of course, then you get the people who say, well, if we can do that for those people, then we can do it just for convenience sake. Well, it's all convenience, but pick your convenience. Pick your convenience. And don't give me that slippery slope nonsense. We're talking about making judgment calls here, informed judgment calls. All of which we've already agreed from the outset are wrong. Sinful and wrong. It's, what was that line? We all know we're. Oh, there was some line from a movie that said, we all know we're doing something, we're just talking about degree, we're just talking about, it's like that great joke about a guy goes up to a woman at a party and says, will you sleep for me for $5? She says, no. And he says, will you sleep for me for $2 million? She says, well, yeah. He says, well, now we're just talking about price. See? So that's it's the same type of moral, how should we say, elasticity. Well, now I will deal with well, there's a couple other things I want to talk about. Now I'll deal with the people who want to do this, end of term abortion. Meaning, they've decided finally at the last, whatever. Basically, you've got a normal-looking kid in the womb, and it's get these, of course, it's generally also when they're in their labor, and they're saying, well, we'll just slice his head open and suck him out, or pull him out, or squeeze him out, or stick, pull him out, and pieces and parts and pieces. And that's just wrong. Because by that time, the die has been cast. That's murder as far as I'm concerned. I don't know as I go along with some of these state laws that say that, if you have a road accident and kill a woman and her baby dies inside her at a certain age, that's also a double murder or double manslaughter. I don't know about that, but I'll leave that for the lawyers out there. And that's tough. Well, it plays well to the electorate, doesn't it? It plays well to your voter. It plays well to your primary base, doesn't it? And now I'm going to tell you one more story, and I'll shut up, since I can see we're up to. That's all right. I won't use this man's name because he's still around, I think. I, well, I'll tell you this story by leading into it with another story. When I was in medical school, no, I spent a month at the University of Michigan, and on this rotation called community medicine, and I may have mentioned this earlier. I went up and I spent a month at the Student Health Service and went around the University of Michigan at the various medical related things to see what they were doing and how it related to taking care of more of a population of people than specific patients, and wrote a paper about it. And as part of my experience, I quite well, I knew I was going into an abortion clinic. And I had said to this guy, I had made it very clear to this guy, I said, I do not want to participate or help in an abortion. I said, I'm very willing to witness one. I'll be kind to the woman that's having it. But I do not in any way, shape, or form wish to help in this. Well, you know what happens. Once you're in the room, you're in the fucking room. Sorry about the F word, guys. So, this sly slime ball in there who's scraping away, and he wanted me to hold a tray or something. Well, I'd held trays under woman's hoo-hoos before that had stuff coming out. But I really felt compromised, and I resented that, and I let this guy know, in no uncertain terms afterwards. And he apologized. Man, that happens. These things happen. And so then the last story is this, and you'll have to pardon me while I blow my nose. It's really, I don't know why I'm stopped up today. Good grief. We had a fellow, actually this guy had been around since I was a medical student at Ohio State. He had actually been a resident, an OBGYN resident, when I was a medical student at Ohio State. He was well, it doesn't matter what he was. Well, he was an Indian fellow, but that doesn't matter what he was, because I could tell you about 2 or 3 other white guys in the same way that did the same stuff. It's just I didn't happen to encounter them in these circumstances. It seems that well, this guy ran one of these abortion mills out on, somewhere in Columbus. He was notorious. Well, I had, I was up here on Allen Creek, and I'd retired. So this was in the mid-late 90s, probably later 90s. And maybe even early 2000s. And I went down to Kmart. I was surprised to find Kmart still open down there on Westerville Road. And so I said, oh, hell, I'm surprised it's still open. So I thought I'd pop in there just to see if there's anything I could find. Of course, the shelves were like mostly empty. It's when they were getting ready to wind down the Kmart operation there. After Kmart / Sears, bought each other or combined or whatever. And so I've got my little, I don't know what I bought. So I get in the line behind this guy, and I didn't recognize him at first. And he was in line behind a woman. So it was like 3 of us, the woman, this guy, and me. And This woman had like, one of these carts full, piled above, her height. It's going to take a long time for this woman to check out. And I'm back of this guy. And then a woman gets behind me, which is even better. And I look up and I say, let's call him Mac. That's not his name. I said, Mac! I said, I didn't know you were still around. Because I thought surely he'd been run out of town by now. This guy was notorious for, he'd kill anything that came in that was in a womb that moved or not moving. You have a pregnant admin walk into his office, he's going to evacuate. And I thought to myself, God has put him into mine hands. There are about 2 other times that's happened to me where, God has put him into mine hands. So I said to him, I said, what was I calling him? Mac? We'll call him Mac. What the hell? I said, are you still killing all those babies? And I said it really loud. Now, you understand, this is Kmart, and, how many guys are in Kmart at that time of day, like 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning? Well, turns out only 2, both of whom, one of whom, had practiced medicine actively, and the other of whom is practicing some sort of quasi type of medicine actively. But the rest are all these women. All of them very fertile women, a number of them holding infants in their arms or You still killing all those babies? Well, blah, 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 blah. I said, what's your criteria? How old do they, how far along do they have to be before you stop doing it? I know, actually, to his credit, he didn't do any of those late-term abortions. The ones right at the end, where they slice the head open. Now, I'll tell you, there is a time when all attempts at delivery have failed, and even a C-section has failed, and the head's caught. That's what you got to do. I'm going to tell you right now, there can't be more than about 5 of those in the whole United States over the course of a year, if that many. Now, that's a bit of a digression. So eventually I had my fun, and he was able to check it, because he didn't have very many items, and he checked out. And I thought, good. He deserved that. And I'll tell you why he deserved that, because he's one of the only guys, no, he is the only guy that ever pulled a fast one on me. This guy came into Grant on a Saturday morning, and he said he had an emergency D&C to do. Well, he said he had a missed AB, meaning a woman had started to spontaneously miscarry, and it didn't complete itself, and he needed to evacuate the rest of the fetal remains from the uterus. So it's missed AB, that's fine. That happens a lot. So come in, plug her in, do the case, and it becomes clear to me while he's doing the case, he's actually doing the actual abortion. He's not doing a missed AB. He's not completing a spontaneous miscarriage. He's doing the actual abortion right there in the hospital. Now, why he would come in and do that when he had his own office where he did all this stuff? Because this woman wasn't particularly unusually unhealthy or problematic. Maybe she just demanded to have her abortion in the hospital. And he pulled a fast one on me. I confronted him in the locker room after. And I said, you got by me with this one. And I told him, I said, but I will never work with you again for any case whatsoever. I will never work with you again on any case whatsoever. Abortion, DNC, GYN, nothing. I will never work with you again. You lied to me. So that's why I had my fun with him at KMart. So, I didn't think it was going to be this long, but, sometimes you just got to talk, don't you? Well, about this kind of stuff anyway. In any case, I didn't even get into the stuff about how all the women at Ohio State University wanted to get Faith to kill Thomas when she got pregnant, because they did. The Walechi crowd was jumping around with torches trying to get her to kill my son and what would then become my grandson. Thanks be to God, that didn't happen. See, all this stuff's very, very personable. 40 years ago. What a shittily written decision. Alrighty, guys. Bye-bye, YouTubers.